The National Pediatric Cancer Foundation, or NPCF, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to funding research to eliminate childhood cancer. Their focus is to fund research to fast-track less toxic, more targeted treatments by partnering with 24 leading hospitals nationwide. NPCF is up next on Bayside. Good morning and welcome to Bayside. I'm your host, Shelly Sanders. Imagine, if you will, a home, a life, a world with no pediatric cancer. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Well, that's what the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation would like to see as well. I've got to welcome to the show Dr. Damon Reed. Welcome. You are the leader of the Sunshine Project for the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's very nice to have you here. We've had many events that we've had on the show that go to benefit NPCF, and so it's nice to actually have you guys here to tell us all about it from your perspective. So
yeah, thank you for that support, and I do get to see that, going around the Tampa community. I get to see our signs, and people do support, and I often catch a cashier or something kind of surprised, and I say, you know what this actually is, and here's my role, and it generally is well received. I mean, people have a passion for it, even not completely understanding what we do.
Sure. That being said,
yes.
So with the Sunshine Project, it's interesting, and it's underneath the umbrella of the NPCF. So
yes.
Why don't let's start there. Talk about that project and what your role is there.
Good. The National Pediatric Cancer Foundation began over 25 years ago, and it was inspired and completely created by mothers. So people who went through the cancer experience from that perspective, which is obviously different than the doctor experience, and has certain strengths that we've carried through for these years. So for the first 2/3 of it or so is funding lab research and giving money in relatively small amounts to try to move the needle. And Melissa Helms, one of the founders, really said, I want to dream bigger about a decade ago. And that's fortunately when I got to become involved as well, and really thinking broadly. And Melissa has big dreams, big aspirations, and so I've always tried to live up to those goals, the goals of a mother whose child had cancer, and successfully fought it, which is great. Sure. But she just saw a lot of things that could be improved with the way that the doctors and hospitals were addressing cancer, and we try to really exceed her expectations on what we can do.
Sure. And so from there, the Sunshine Project was born.
Yeah, and so the Sunshine Project is kind of that brainchild, and it's the research arm of the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation, mm-hmm. and primarily and fundamentally, it's trying to get out of the silos. A hospital that might be even a great hospital might not think much beyond its county lines or state lines or even the building property that it's on. And we started, before I was part of it, it was already multi-institutional. Many sites in Florida and in New York, and about 6 sites back in 2009, and we've expanded up to 24 now.
Sure.
Yeah, being collaborative, working across hospitals is not always easy, but it is absolutely correct. And being able to be nimble about it, being able to say, here's what we have now, but here's what we're dreaming to do, and it doesn't line up. We need to add different sites, has been how we've kind of organically become 24 sites, reaching now very clearly across the nation.
Sure. Well, I can only imagine that more minds, it can only help to expand where your visions are for the project.
Yeah,
for sure.
we have calls every 2 weeks and get people from all over the country talking, and then once a year we have a summit where we bring everybody in the same room, and when the new sites
Wow.
come in the first time, it's just fascinating to see them say, yeah, of course this is what we should have been doing all along. We just didn't know it was possible. We kind of had our heads down and we were thinking locally. But what's great about it is when we have 24 different sites there, they all have a voice, they're all interacting with people. We've had moments where we've said, this is a problem, And we said, who can figure this out? And the answer was no one, but one person said, I could do part of that, in Baltimore. And another person said, oh, I could do part of it in North Carolina. And another person said, I could do this in New York. And we kind of came to a whole and almost immediately funded that to the tune of a couple $100,000. And that project happened in about a year. It's something that would have taken years and probably never even happened because those people wouldn't have been in the same room. They would have been thinking in that different way. But the expertise was there. It just wasn't clear to people to even think that big because they were focused on what they could do.
Sure. I mean, it's exciting just from an onlooker's perspective. Put it this way, we had Melissa here years ago, and actually we're fortunate enough to hear her story. And I say fortunate enough because it is a blessing. We should let you know that, yes, Melissa has a happy ending to her story with her daughter. But we had her on in the initial years with the Pediatric Cancer Foundation, and just to watch it grow and to this magnitude. I think the last time we had any guests on that were, the event that they had were going to benefit and PCF was, I think you only at that time maybe had five hospitals across the nation, and here you are with 24. So it just goes to show you that this is a project that demands so much attention, and it's working.
Yeah, it's being sustained and growing for sure. Yeah, so if you talk about a couple years ago, we might have been putting on 1 or 2 patients every quarter or something like that, but we've had a couple clinical trials that have been seen all the way through. We've been shown our track record that we can do this. We can not only treat patients safely, but also collect very innovative labs and really kind of push the needle a little bit on that.
Let's talk about those. And, let's talk about those for just a moment. Some of these projects, side projects, if you will, that are working, or some of the accomplishments, if you will. Let's do that.
Good. So there are lots of opportunity to improve childhood cancer. It's not a solved problem, unfortunately, and so still thousands of kids are dying every year in the United States of childhood cancer. I do stand on the shoulders of giants that came the generation before me who took cure rates from 20% up to 70 to 80%, but there's still patients that we'll see that we know they're not going to make it, even at their first day of diagnosis, because it's a disease that we just haven't figured out yet. And so we've really focused on those, the relapses when the disease comes back, and the cancers that we haven't solved yet. And we've funded everything. We, as much as I try to narrow the foundation down to say we really should tackle one part of cancer, not the hundreds of cancers that affect kids, they've said, no, we're doing it all. And so what we basically do is pick what is the best opportunity. We funded, for example, in brain tumors, we funded a lab at University of Florida that takes out a brain tumor as part of the patient's treatment, trains their immune system, and trains the cells to go back in and fight that cancer. And that trial called ACTION will launch within a month or two. That will be at a couple sites, and we needed to incorporate huge brain tumor sites around the country for that, and so we have 4 sites around the country.
Wow.
Yes.
So I want to get more into that, but we do have to take a short break. You at home, you're looking at the website right now, nationalpcf.org. That's the website that's going to answer all the questions you may have. It will go over again a lot of the content that Dr. Reed and I are talking about. You check it out. We're going to take a break, but we'll be back. Welcome back to Bayside. I'm your host, Shelly Sanders. I've been talking with Dr. Damon Reed, who is the leader of the Sunshine Project with NPCF, National Pediatric Cancer Foundation. Dr. Reed, first of all, I have to commend you for being so passionate and wanting to be a part of this and being the leader of this project. Being involved with childhood cancer, I can't imagine what a beautiful, bittersweet position that you're in. To be able to have success stories would be just the icing and the filling inside the cake. And unfortunately, there are still tragic stories, which is what I'm sure, speaking for you, I can only imagine it would fuel your passion and your desire to continue on. That being said, these trials, we left on break talking about one of them, action. So they're so important, and this for you at home, giving reasons for you to show up and volunteer when they need volunteers, to give your financial donations, to show up to those events that go to benefit this organization. These are the reasons why it's so necessary that you go to these events to fund things like action, this particular trial. Tell me a little bit more about that and what you see, what the visions are for the future with this.
Yes, so there's some cancers in pediatrics that have benefited from past chemo, and a lot of people have a lot of charged opinions about chemotherapy.
Sure.
There are definitely some therapies, some chemotherapies don't do anything to certain tumors. Action is for high-grade gliomas, a certain type of cancer in kids that are largely fatal, and largely chemotherapy doesn't do anything significant to them. And so in order to try to fix this, it takes a whole new way of thinking, and it takes technologies that haven't been invented yet, that we invested in with grants years ago, and now have gotten to the point that we think it's a good idea to try out in newly diagnosed kids with cancer. They don't have a treatment right now that is promising enough that we shouldn't try something new. And so, yes, there are tons of people around the country, like me, pediatric oncologists, that are unhappy with the state of care, or don't want to have conversations with parents about how we don't have anything more to offer, or we don't have a good prognosis. And so us like-minded people have hitched together through this project and are trying to fix that.
Sure. How do you go about choosing the patients? Like, who goes into the trials, and how does that part work? I'm sure there are parents out there that are watching wondering, like, gosh, my nephew, my daughter.
We try to pick it, and that's why we've been growing to bigger sites, bigger cities, and trying to make sure that we can, like for example with Action, we have 4 sites: Florida, Los Angeles, Nationwide Children's in Columbus, Ohio, and in Washington, D.C. So we're geographically spread. These are major centers with very prominent people that take care of brain tumors, that tend to, when a parent finds out that their child has this type of cancer and they go into Google, they'll see these doctors pop up. And so we try to have our trials there at the ready. You have to think in advance, unfortunately, of this bad thing happening and be prepared ahead of time. And that's what this is, yeah.
Wow, just master that.
We have to be ready, yeah. We have to be ready. That's what these hospitals, and that's what our job is. It is ultimately a really good job. I don't want people to think it's so depressing or anything like that.
Oh,
we get to see the best in people.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that is understood. When I said in the beginning, I'm sure it's bittersweet. You know, I mean, and to be able to, I think that's the beautiful part about the NPCF, National Pediatric Cancer Foundation, is the fact that you're there for not just the patient.
Yeah.
You guys do a fantastic job at really being there for the family as well, because it is a family issue, a community issue. It extends beyond that. So with the trials, are there other exciting, walk us through that, for example. Okay, so you go through the trials. What happens next? And if this is successful, if in this case we've been talking about Action, if it's successful, what happens from here?
So there's so many new aspects of this trial. So Dr. Dwayne Mitchell is the one who's invented the technologies and will see these things through. Literally taking an immune system out of someone, training it against the cancer. These are things that cost $50,000 to $75,000 per patient to do, to get all of the kind of steps, all the technologies, all the new aspects of it to happen. And so it is an expensive process. We do appreciate the, you know, and I'm proud of the fact that the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation is supported from people who just go online. About a third of the funds that go towards these really innovative but also expensive trials just come from people who are just click and support us. A third comes from corporations that really kind of do some deep vetting sometimes, and really kind of, you know, we talk about what we're doing, and they really want to see underneath the hood of the carriage. And then other things are events that the foundation actually puts on, fashion shows and other things that are happening around the country. But we put that money to good use, even though $50,000 to $75,000 is certainly seems like a lot of money, but in a child's life it seems like nothing. And so, but we try to see those things through. What happens afterwards, if this works, then we might take a cancer that is almost uniformly fatal and have a solution for it. We might, and that is always the hope.
Sure.
Action isn't the only trial we're doing.
Of
We have some
course.
targeted agents that are very precise for the biology of a cancer called Ewing sarcoma. We have some other pretty innovative trials with some older chemotherapies, testing them in different ways to try to see how they might affect cancers that have relapsed as well.
And all the while these are going on, there's constant research, and you may be discovering something else, uncovering one thing when you're really in search of another.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yeah, no, that's really, really insightful. So there's a lot of things that we're doing in the lab where we might
Sure.
look and we might find that we've been focusing a lot on combinations. We find
Right.
it hard to.
So much goes on.
Yeah.
So much goes into it. For you at home, if you have any questions, or perhaps you'd like to donate, every little bit counts. You can always log on to nationalpcf.org. You're looking at the website right there, and that precious little one right there. All right, why don't you check it out? We're going to take a break, but we'll be back. Welcome back to Bayside. I'm your host, Shelly Sanders, and I have been talking with Dr. Damon Reed, who is the leader of the Sunshine Project. What is it, in case you're just tuning in? Well, the Sunshine Project is from the doctor's perspective for the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation. It's, just huge things that you guys are doing over there, and I love the fact that you call it the Sunshine Project, because it's a happy feeling. It's a light at the end of the tunnel sort of vision that you get from just the name alone. So in that regard, you
Absolutely.
can pass that along.
Yeah, great. It's Florida
It
grown,
is
but now
wonderful.
national. It's great.
But it
yes.
is.
Yep.
It gives you that sense of feel. So, you know, we could spend probably 3 different shows, all of them completely devoted to what you guys do over there, and still not cover everything. So you've got many trials, many, not many. They are huge. You've got big trials, lots of them, lots of research going on at the same time. We had talked about that. All of this is done through funding, and let's face it, without the funding, you guys wouldn't be able to do what you do. So for you at home, any of you that have donated in the past or been there for an event or shown up to volunteer should they need them, pat yourself on the back, because job well done, and keep it up. Keep up the good work. So that being said, where are we going? What's the future hold for NPCF?
Yeah, I think the things that we're going to focus on, we're definitely growing, and we definitely are so appreciative of the donor support. We've been able to think big and bigger, completing trials, showing that we can do things. Working together has really differentiated ourselves across institutions. Being nimble and really responding to things, having things happen in a time frame that donors understand and that mothers understand and that doctors understand and didn't think were possible has differentiated us. And the sky's the limit. But the things that we were really focused on is immunotherapies, this designing the immune system to go after brain tumors. Really smart, like you said in the beginning, more targeted, less toxic therapies. We have this new drug in Ewing sarcoma that is uniquely, never been before done. A really rare tumor is being studied first, rather than a really common tumor being studied first. And that's unique, and that's because, again, of one of our network sites having really good research saying that this is the cancer where this works. And we're going to continue to grow. We're going to do combinations. And the other thing is, people cannot believe that we don't have a blood test for cancer. And that's been another major investment that we've made, is trying to figure out if we can find those few cells out in the blood and tell someone you're really in remission or you're not in remission for the majority of childhood cancers.
Isn't that, I mean, it is really pretty shocking. And how do you know, it becomes a complicated argument or debate, if you will, back and forth on trying to figure that out. So many things that are going on over there. I commend you, and thank you for your work, Dr. Reed.
Thank you.
All right, for you at home, please log on to the website, figure out how you can help. I tell you every week, get out, get involved in your community, and this is one way you can do that. Nationalpcf.org, that was the website you're looking at. Why don't you go log on to it while we take a short break. As always, I want to thank you at home for joining us this week on Bayside. And Dr. Reed, thank you for being here so much. It really was a pleasure. And keep doing what you're doing. Awesome stuff over there. All right, for you at home, I tell you every week, get out, get involved in your community. Log on to nationalpcf.org. It'll answer any questions you may have still, but you can always donate. All right, until next time, we'll see ya.